Hello and welcome to the visualization. So we're here at Bates College. They've only expanded since I've been a kid. I was raised in this area on Elm Street for 10 years. And all they do is expand. This building is new right here, this Calpurus Hall. But I came out here last night, Saturday night, on my e-bike. And, a lot, or even during the day too, earlier yesterday. But last night, there's a bunch of college students coming home from the bar. And, to each their own. It's not too troublesome for people to be, let's say, drunk and slightly rowdy. But, there were certain moments in my childhood where they were disruptive and urinating on my basketball hoop in my driveway, stuff like that. But my point is these people come from out of state. They have a home in their hometown, their parents' home or whatever, probably their own apartment. And then they come out here and take up apartments through Bates College, who covers those apartments or owns those apartments. Bates College is a rich college buying all of the apartment buildings, and with me being unhoused for about a month now, technically since April 25 last year, 2024, I did have a roof over my head for the past year. Two different, I was in Georgetown for 8 months, and then I was in Bath for about 4 months, 4 months, and it's like, I see the expansion of Bates College, and I have more subscribers on YouTube than they do. Just a little fun fact. But the point is these people already have homes. They come to my city, my locality. They completely disregard and ignore. I don't want to say completely, but they disregard, and I would say on an individual personal level, on a one-on-one level, they ignore and disregard the intensification of homelessness. I know that some Bates students get involved with certain organizations. I think Tree Street Youth or something like that is one of them. So I'm aware that they might donate to charities and they might contribute to community service type programs. But at the same time, on an individual level and just a humane level, they're just sitting here uptown in Lewiston, Maine, while downtown just becomes more homeless and more poverty stricken. And nothing against Somali people, but Somali people tend to stick to their own culture, and they don't tend to care for the English language, and they don't care to engage with and network with the locals, generally the white folk or the black folk. Perhaps maybe they interact with the black folk more than the white folk. But streets upon streets upon streets are being bought out by this rich college, taking over my city. And then downtown, a lot of the Somalis are, rightfully so, taking over Lisbon Street. That's what they, that's their expansion. That's their population expansion, naturally. But it's hard to network that way. You can't network with Bates College students when most times they're snobby. They're usually rich and generally snobby. I can't say in full, because they were interacting with me yesterday when I was riding on my e-bike and playing music, giving me, shouting at me, saying, yeah, awesome, and stuff like that. And I'm sure if I walked up to them with business cards promoting my YouTube channel, they would probably be willing to check out my YouTube channel. But the thing is I have to emphasize, when it's hard to interact with Somalis because they don't really care about white folk or English culture, English language, you can't interact with them, you know. You could try, I guess, but a lot of times they might not fully understand English or speak it. And then you try to come uptown and you try to interact with these people, but you can assume that most times they're going to be kind of snobby. And, you know, and I hate to generalize, but I I could come out to this park, you know, go meet up with some of these people that are just chilling at the park or whatever, go run down the river walk down by Sunnyside Park, and, you know, maybe find a jogging partner or some jogging partners and stuff like that. But, you know, between Bates College students, Bates College itself buying all the apartments, Somali people not really caring about white people or the English language, not to generalize, but for the most part, don't really care about white folk or English language or English culture, American culture. Therefore, they're creating their own little, let's say, quote-unquote Chinatown, except Somali town. And, you know, they have plenty of stores on Lisbon Street. And, you know, all the more, what is it? All the more power to them. But then, aside from Bates and Somalis, we have drug dealers, we have gangbanging, and then within the households, downtown usually, there's bed bugs, cockroaches. So when you're in Lewiston, Maine, or even Auburn, Maine, and you're trying to network with people, especially as a poverty-stricken individual, it's almost impossible to network. So basically, buying a bunch of business cards, let's say 10,000 business cards from Vista Print for $280, and then kind of passing them out or just laying them on stairs or, you know, at doorways and stuff like that. That's the best way to network. So, you know, without having to, let's say, possibly bring a friend over to your house or your apartment, and then all of a sudden that friend brought over some bed bugs or some cockroaches, and then you have an infestation. Or you network with, let's say, somebody who's a drug dealer and you don't even know, or you might know. Or you network with somebody who's a gangbanger, or both, a gangbanger and a drug dealer. Usually both come hand in hand. So with me being basically unhoused since April 25, 2024, but now I'm back in Lewiston for the past month or month and a half, you know, over this past, year, a little over a year, since April 25, 2024, it started to sink in, and I started to express everything that I just said, you know, and then, you know, I forgot to mention there's a lot of prostitution. I guess, in other words, in a more professional word, it would be solicitation or whatever. I don't know. But it's not right that I'm being basically pushed out of my own city. I have to go live in the woods right now. This is one of the biggest points. I have to go live in the woods right now and pitch a tent while all these out-of-towners, all these college students that already have a home in a different state, get to stay in a secondary apartment in my locality, taking up, you know, residential space that I could be using. I could get into an apartment. So between Somalis, college students, and the lack of funding, I'm always being put on a wait list. It's like, you're on a wait list for dental care. You're on a wait list for housing, Section 8, this, that, and the third. So where's the logic in that? I don't have anything more to say about it. I just encourage you all to pressure the government to implement a universal basic income, which is $1,000 a month for every citizen, without being forced to talk about your personal life to claim disability. I think people should be able to have a private diary and not be forced into mental health services where they have to talk about their personal life just to get disability approval, SSI, Social Security, income, or SSDI. I don't know what that stands for, but people shouldn't be sitting here basically snitching on their family members. It's like people are being forced to snitch on their family members, expose their family members for neglect, abuse, and stuff like that. Meanwhile, realistically, people should be getting paid $1,000 a month through a universal basic income, and we should be intensifying the evolution of automation and robotics so then people don't have to work, because everything can be taken care of by drones, automation, robotics. For the most part, we might need to have some humans within the emergency services realm. But even then, it's like robots can handle most things, and if we don't set fires, we don't really need the fire department. So it's also it's inhumane to force people to live outside in New England, relying on food stamps with no cookware, not able to cook hot food for themselves, being forced in the woods to cook food on a grill that they can't even afford. But then also, when you're forced into the woods, there's a chance of getting Lyme disease. So this is a war on poor, and I advise this American government to stop this war on the poor. Rights, freedom, privacy, national security. Remember that. That's what we're devoted to. American dream, rights, freedom, privacy, national security. So the most I've seen as far as national security goes is there's more cameras everywhere. Wow. So we have cameras everywhere. We have cameras on the streets. We have cameras in the stores. And what does that do for anybody? It just proves that something happened. And I'll finalize by saying, until police can teleport, they are not modernly I'd say until police can teleport, until law enforcement starts utilizing drones, #drones replace badges, then police are basically, I would say, useless. They can't just appear where a crime happens, therefore they're false heroes, I would say. Police officers are false heroes. And, I don't know if I'm using the right word, false, I guess. I don't know. I'm just kind of on the spot right now. But until police can teleport, I find them to be very useless. Therefore, drones replace badges. #drones replace badges. I'm all for pro-privacy, but at the same time, I'm all for pro-security too. So if you're out in the public and you have a drone, if you have a drone watching you out in the public and you can accept that, then I'm pretty sure crimes will be shot down 90%, like 80%. So, drugs, yeah, we can't stop the drugs from coming into the country. We have 50 states that are usually the sizes of countries. Most of our states, I don't know, I think we have over 50 states, but we have about 50 states. Most of our states are bigger than most countries. And we have one president, basically, we have mayors and governors, but we have one president handling 50 countries, calling shots for 50 countries. And they say, your vote matters? I don't know about all that. So that's about all I gotta say. Just, I don't know, man. Revolt, I guess. Revolt. Stand up. Be an activist. A real activist acts on their interests all day, every day. And that's what I am. I'm an activist, gamer, cannabis supporter, user, well, THC consumer. Yeah, it doesn't matter what I particularly do. I'm a pro gamer, pro cannabis supporter, non-religious, vegan, and out of coincidence, I'm an activist for many causes like anti-corruption, anti-fraudulence, anti-tyranny, anti-homelessness, pro-universal basic income, and anti-abuse of power. So, speak your mind, think before you speak, and like I usually say, how do I say it? Hello and welcome to the visualization. Conserve your energy and brain power, tuck your ego, curb your rage. There are 7 billion people on Earth, don't sweat one. It's easier to throw shade than shed light. Seek logic and purity. Addiction is fiction. Karma is non-existent. Human rights and animal rights are non-existent because governments can draft you into a war at any time, and 150 billion plus animals are slaughtered worldwide annually for food, fashion, and profit. Stop the war on poor and encourage our government, our American government, to implement a universal basic income. Hashtag UBI. Scrunch your nose, stretch your upper lip downward, flare your nostrils, and praise your family and ancestors, not a non-existent God. See ya.